I see things. I've talked there with General Casey. And what I did and what we did in coming back was to try to find a way to get us out of this situation. We were in the midst of a civil war, and no matter what you may say, that is the pattern of which the majority of people, not all of them, in my district and across the nation felt, and I had to reflect the majority of the opinion of people who vote in the 13th district. And that was, it's time for us to do the reasonable thing and begin a progression out. Now on, and you mentioned the other thing about the cost of this bill. You're absolutely right. But yes, we can get half of this $1 trillion. And I might add that because of the work that we and the Blue Dog Coalition did, we've gotten it a little below the $1 trillion now. So it's coming in at about $980-some billion. Might not be much, but it shows that we are concerned about making sure we get the cost. We put together an efficiency team made up of the best of efficiency experts to squeeze everything and waste and abuse out of the system to save money so that we can pay for it by saying there's tremendous waste in the healthcare system. And we could get about half of that cost out. Now you talk about it coming out of the Medicare. What is not mentioned is that's a gross figure. But we're adding $364 billion in new monies into Medicare to make it better. We are making sure that we will have the 21% increase in the reimbursement rate for physicians. That's another $264 billion in this program so that doctors can get caught up on their reimbursement. And that's one of the reasons why the American Medical Association supports it, and one of the primary reasons why we can feel we can get more primary care and other physicians into this bill. On the debt, no congressman has been on the floor of the Congress fighting against this debt. We have, since 2000 to 2008, in that 8-year period, spent more money, borrowed more money from foreign governments than all the preceding presidents before them, since George Washington. Think about that. I realize that. That's why I took the leadership and made sure that we, again, in a tough year of saying to the president, we're going to have to pay for this and not put it on the backs of our children. And President Obama agreed to do it, and he's been able to put together this mechanism, and we have all the efficiency experts to tell us that this mechanism will work. And we're going to go forward and get this bill paid for without putting it on the backs of our children and grandchildren.
I just wanted to respond to the gentleman. We're very glad you're an AARP member, and I just wanted to respond to some of the, because I wanted to make sure there's a little bit of a misperception about the 5 bills, so I just wanted to make clear. I do have my 1,800-page copy with me, but just to make sure folks know that the 3 committees introduced the exact same bill on one day, so we make sure that we have been furiously reading every page and every amendment that has been offered at AARP to look at how it affects all of our members so that folks understand what is happening and what is how it might affect our members so that we can weigh in on things that we have concerns about and how it might change things. But it was the exact same bill that was introduced on the same day in July. So it's not as if there are 3 different 1,000-page bills going on in the House today. What each committee did was report out a different bill with different amendments. Both the House Ways and Means Committee reported out a bill with no amendments. So it's the same bill. The Education and Labor Committee, which has jurisdiction over some education and labor amendments. So that deals with issues, as some of you raised concerns about, with small employers, as the congressman said, about how they might fare under the bill. Many members of Congress, of course, as you all have raised, have many concerns about how their constituents who are small employers or work for small employers or are uninsured would fare. So they've made some amendments in those areas, which we who have members who work for those people and have trouble finding insurance, that's one of the things we want to change. One thing the president has said consistently, and we at AARP feel very strongly about, is if people have insurance that they like, they should be allowed to keep it. If they're unable to get insurance today, then we want to make sure that they have affordable options when this is all over. And I think that everyone in the House and Senate is working very hard toward that goal. And we hear from many small employers today that they want to be able to provide insurance to their employees. Sometimes that gives them a competitive disadvantage, that they lose employees because they go work for a large employer, because of course finding health insurance is something that all Americans want to have for the security of their families. So I think that when we look at the amendments, as Congressman Scott said, it was the Energy and Commerce Committee that looked at what we call the Blue Dog Amendments, which is a coalition of, tends to be more conservative Democrats. And they did look at some of the things that changed the public option, as we call it in Congress. And I think that we're looking at that closer too, to see how it will affect our members in Medicare and how it will affect our members that aren't in Medicare. So I just wanted to clarify that. I also, in response to what the Congressman said as well, there are many changes, although it seems to you all that this costs an astronomical amount of money, which of course it does. But the Medicare program, as the woman who told us her heart-wrenching story about her friend who died, medical spending in this country is astronomical, as any of you who've had to face these bills on your own know. So even though this costs almost $1 trillion, that's merely 3% of what our Medicare program costs in this country. And even though that seems like just this unbelievable amount of money, it's 3% of all Medicare spending. So what we are trying to do is pay back some of this into the Medicare program, take care of the donut hole costs, which we hear from our members is something we're paying premiums and getting nothing in return. So we're trying to get people help with their prescription drug costs there. We are trying to make sure that we bring down the cost for future generations. In response to the gentleman's concern, it won't go into effect in 2009. It actually is a 10-year plan. We are trying to make sure there's transitions so that we do pay our doctors. We hear so much from our members that they can't find, especially our new Medicare members, that they can't find people that will take Medicare. We want to make sure our doctors are there for our Medicare members. This would make sure if we don't pass this legislation, that they'll face a 21% cut. All of our Medicare doctors will face a 21% cut at the end of this year. It does put new incentives in for people to go into primary care in rural areas, for new nurse practitioners to go into primary care, for us to find access for our Medicare members. These are critically important reforms that we've heard over and over that we need in this country. So I just want to assure people, we have read every single page. We are looking at all these amendments, and we want to make sure that some of these reforms that we hear about are there for our members today and our members tomorrow.